All right, so let's talk about the most talked about topic this whole entire week. This is 5 days out from the attempted Trump assassination by Thomas Crooks. I know that there's a lot of claims out there, so I just kind of want to go over them. I don't know what side I'm on per se. I know that there are a lot of different theories out there, so I just kind of want to go over the theories. So I know that there are a lot of people that are thinking that Biden and his team or the Democratic Party or the Secret Service itself set up this plan in motion in order to have Trump assassinated. And I think one of the fears that their team ultimately had was that they couldn't beat Trump, that Biden couldn't beat Trump. And, you know, since the debate in June, I think it was in June, it has been getting pretty clear that Biden is not looking too hot. He is way too old for this position, and there's some question about his mental capacity. So I think that maybe there were some fears that Biden ultimately couldn't beat Trump. And I know that the Democratic Party has been putting Trump in the limelight in regards to all these different convictions and criminal investigations into January 6th and all of that stuff. So, you know, I think that people that are on the side of thinking that Biden and his team did do this intentionally think that the only way that they could get Trump out of the election and for Biden to beat Trump is to ultimately get rid of him. So, and that's what they're claiming. People that are on the Trump conspiracy theory side. There's also some theories that the Secret Service intentionally allowed the shooting or withheld protection. They either took away protection from Trump, or the other narrative is that they just didn't stop this kid, Thomas Crooks, from the assassination attempt. It was just kind of like this kid planned it. They turned their heads like as if they didn't know that this was happening. And ultimately, he just went in there easily, willy-nilly, and if Trump didn't turn his head, he would have been shot directly in the temple and died. So, interesting theories out there. Just a disclaimer, I do not think one way or the other. I'm just gathering all the information and the data and the ideas of people that have conspiracies against it, and I am presenting it here. So none of my personal theories are going to be in here. So in this video. All right, so let's look at the actual timeline. And make sure you stay till the end because I have a very, very, very interesting article that I want to share with you that points out some very disturbing information.
It's 6:03 p.m. on Saturday, July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania. Former President Donald Trump takes the stage at a campaign rally. 6:05 p.m. Trump stands behind the podium and begins to speak.
This is a big crowd. This is a big, beautiful crowd.
Rally attendees have been scanned for weapons before entering the event. Secret Service counter snipers are seen positioned on top of these two buildings located behind where the former president is speaking.
The Republican...
6:09 p.m., 2 minutes before the first gunshots. While Trump is speaking, witnesses notice a gunman on the roof of a nearby building located here, outside the security perimeter. He's in an elevated position and around 400 feet away from the former president. 6:10 p.m., 1 minute before the first gunshots. A bystander captures what appears to be local law enforcement walking around looking at these two structures. Local law enforcement would later tell ABC News they had been alerted of suspicious activity in the area and were in the process of looking for a potential suspect.
You guys are doing it.
6:10 p.m. Trump pivots his head slightly to the right and starts describing a chart showing immigration stats. One of the counter-sniper teams is visible in this witness video. These onlookers notice something is off and start running away from where the shooter is located. 6:11 p.m. Trump has been speaking for about 8 minutes.
Our country took over, and look what happened to
A supporter captures this footage from outside the rally perimeter moments before gunshots are heard. The first shot rings out. A second and a third shot are heard. Former President Trump ducks behind the podium. Another round of shots. 6:12 p.m. More agents huddle around Trump. About 15 seconds go by and we hear one last shot. From these bleachers located to the right of where Trump is speaking, a bystander captures agents huddled around the former president, shielding him. He then shifts the camera to the crowd. Someone needs help. An attendee appears to be shot, possibly in the head. An ER doctor jumping in to help. The victim will later be identified as 50-year-old Corey Compertor, a firefighter and a father of two. The family would post tributes online later that evening. An agent is heard saying the shooter is down.
Shooter's down. Are we good to move?
We're clear. We're clear.
Secret Service agents lift the former president.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes.
Blood is visible on his face and shirt.
Watch out.
He pumps his fist into the air. The crowd starts to chant. Agents escort Trump down the stairs. He continues to pump his fist. He is escorted into a black SUV that drives away from the grounds.
Lá em cima, né? Aqui, ó.
Bystanders capture footage of what is believed to be the suspected gunman's body laying motionless on the roof of a nearby building. The building located north of where the president was speaking, just under 400 feet away from him. Later that evening, former President Trump confirms in a social media post that a bullet pierced the upper part of his right ear. The path of that bullet captured here in this image taken by New York Times photographer Doug Mills. Law enforcement will later confirm that one attendee was killed. That was Corey Compertor, the firefighter, a husband, and a father to two girls. Law enforcement said he shielded his wife and daughter with his body. Two others were also critically injured but are now in stable condition. The Secret Service is now investigating how a gunman got close enough to shoot and injure the former president. According to law enforcement sources, the 20-year-old Pennsylvania man fired from an AR-style rifle. The suspected shooter was killed by a Secret Service sniper.
All right, so I want to look at this article from NBC News that came out just a couple days ago. So it's titled, Police Warned Secret Service of Suspicious Person at Trump Rally Before Gunman Opened Fire, source says. Before the would-be assassin took aim at Donald Trump during a campaign rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday, local police officers notified the former president's Secret Service detail that they were looking for a suspicious person in the area. The suspicious person, later identified as Thomas Crooks, 20 years old, was first flagged to local police officers by rally-goers on their way into the event. The attendees reported they saw Crooks pacing and behaving strangely near the magnetometers. Very interesting. Local police officers began pursuing Crooks on foot. the officials said. During the pursuit, the U.S. officials said local police told the Secret Service they were looking for a suspicious person near the event. So if they're pursuing him on foot, then why are they saying they're looking for him? That doesn't make sense. But anyway, it's not clear what time the Secret Service was notified and whether it was before Trump took the stage on the grounds of the Butler Farm show. So they weren't sure about the timing. That's what I was going to say. So if they knew ahead of time, if they knew ahead of time, then there's your answer right there. It was before the rally started. People were still going into the rally. Trump probably wasn't on stage yet. So why would they bring him on stage knowing that there's some suspicious person out there that people had noticed acting kind of funny? And why wouldn't they approach him directly, or did they? Because that information is not really there either. So I don't know. That is a little interesting. The timing raises questions about whether other measures could have been taken to stop crooks. Yeah, there's a lot of questions about that. Let's see. In the wake of the shooting, a Secret Service spokesman said the location of the roof fell outside the Secret Service's central security perimeter and was the primary responsibility of local law enforcement. So they're putting the blame on the local law enforcement instead of doing their due diligence and making the perimeter big enough, especially for an outside event. The spokesperson said it is common for the Secret Service to coordinate with local law enforcement agencies. Okay. Current and former Secret Service officials told NBC News that ultimately responsibility for the security of the agency's protectees lies with the Secret Service. The former officials said the agency identified the roof where Crooks fired his rifle toward Trump as a potential vulnerability before Trump took the stage. So if you knew that it was a potential for vulnerability, then why wasn't anyone on that roof or around it or, whatever? Why was this person able to get on the roof? And then there's all these bystanders that see him going on the roof and no one is doing anything to stop him. So I think that's where, people have some question about it. Like, was this planned, or did they purposely not stop him because they wanted this to happen? Just saying. The two former Secret Service agents said the agency could have deployed plainclothes counter surveillance agents to stop the gunman. Yes, I agree. Spokesperson for the Secret Service said an independent review panel announced Monday will ultimately determine what led to the failure to prevent the assassination attempt. The director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, has been working with the Secretary of Homeland Security and the White House on the development of the independent review panel. She will ensure they have the necessary authority and ability to review the entirety of the incident, including planning, resourcing, and staffing. What do you mean? This is what's supposed to be done before the event. This is the whole point of the Secret Service, is to plan out any potential threats, like what could actually happen, how far is the distance, that somebody could potentially hurt the president. Like, that is your sole job, is to protect the former president or whatever person that you're trying to protect. That is your sole responsibility, and they're trained specifically for these incidences. So it just seems like they weren't prepared, or maybe it was planned on purpose, or it was just a complete failure. To protect him. It was only by the grace of God that he didn't get shot directly in the head and died. Secret Service did not immediately respond to questions about the timeline of when they were notified of the threat. Yeah, because they don't want to answer those questions because it'll just incriminate them. And I know that there was something that the director said about like the sloped roof of the building, and that's why that they weren't on top of the building, which if you've seen the building, it's barely sloped, and it just is totally counteracted by the fact that the counter snipers that we saw in many, many pictures and videos that actually took out the gunmen, they were on a sloped roof too. So that's just BS. That's an answer that they didn't think about very well before they said that. So, let's see. Top lawmakers in Congress are demanding answers about the assassination attempt, requesting briefings and planning investigations. The revelations about how law enforcement communicated before the shooting come amid growing evidence that at least half a dozen people who attended the rally were pointing to the gunman while he was on the roof, getting in position, about to shoot, trying to alert law enforcement and fellow rallygoers of the imminent danger. And you see that there's video of people screaming at the gunman, screaming out his name and telling, saying, shooter, shooter, there's somebody on the building. Like, it's very, like, they should have at that point, let's say they didn't know before that, at least at that point, take Trump off stage or have him duck down or do something. Like, do something. The gunman was crouched on the roof for at least 2 minutes before Trump was struck, according to NBC News review of video clips. Videos posted on social media and attendees' interviews with journalists show the mounting panic people felt as they understood the potential threat. One 52-second video shows a group of rallygoers outside the perimeter of the open-air venue loudly announcing the gunman's presence, like I just said. There he is, right there. Right there. See him? He's laying down. See him? They're telling the officers they can see him. They're videotaping it. You catch it all on camera. Seconds later, someone off camera can be heard shouting what sounds like a warning to police. Officer, officer. Trump can be heard on loudspeakers talking about dangerous people and criminals coming through the southern border. And another woman yells, he's on the roof, right there, he's on the roof. And then the video ends. There needed to be clear communication to counter snipers after the kid was spotted, this person says in this article. But was there communication between the police officers and Secret Service? Well, if the police officers and Secret Service are working together on these events, then they should be able to communicate with each other throughout the event. If there was an event like this where there was a potential threat or real threat, as there was in this situation, they should be able to communicate with each other very easily that there's a threat outside the event. And something should have been done right away. So I think that that's what a lot of people are alluding to in all the criticism. In another video posted on social media, Trump can be heard talking about border security statistics displayed on the screen as some attendees start yelling, he's got a gun, he's got a gun. Rally spectator Greg Smith told BBC just a few minutes into Trump's speech, he noticed a man clearly armed with a rifle, bear crawling on the roof, roughly 50 feet away from where he was standing. Smith, who was outside the rally's security perimeter, said he pointed at the shooter for 2 or 3 minutes and tried to alert law enforcement. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle, he told the broadcaster. The police were like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. And he kept pointing them out. Right there, he's on the roof, we can see him, he's crawling. He said Secret Service agents on a nearby roof seemed to see them pointing, but might not have been able to see Crooks because of the slope of the roof he was on. Smith recognized there was a threat to the rally and his mind started racing. I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? Next thing you know, 5 shots rang out.
Yeah, look, there he is.
Because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, see him? He's laying down. See him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
And still I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a Senate.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look, there he is.
Easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You went right on the roof with that.
People are also commenting on the officer that actually went up the ladder to see Crooks and to try and stop him. They're criticizing the fact that he went up onto the ladder and ended up going back down because Crooks pointed his gun at him. Now, I will say that to me is not suspicious in itself, because Crooks ultimately had the upper hand. He was on top of a building. He was on higher ground. The officer was in a lesser position. He was lower, obviously, and Crooks already had his rifle. So he was able to just kind of turn around and point it at the officer. So what was the officer supposed to do? He was on a ladder, and I'm sure he could grab his gun, but by the time he grabs his gun, his head could have been blown off. So that in itself, I don't really criticize, because, you know, I would probably, who would stay in that position? I would probably duck down and try and get some backup first before I just kind of put myself in the situation where it's just me and this shooter that's already in position with a rifle that's, you know, however many feet away, 10 feet away or something like that. He's already in position to blow my head off. So I would probably, now I'm not an officer and not a Secret Service agent or anything like that, but I think that in that moment, you know, the officer is alone and by himself and on a ladder. He's just not in the best position to fight back, so to speak. So I would probably get down as well and then go get some help. So that I don't really criticize.
This morning, new questions about whether opportunities were missed to stop Thomas Crooks before he took aim at former President Donald Trump.
Take a look at what happened.
Crooks was shot and killed by Secret Service snipers after he opened fire with an AR-15 style rifle, just 148 yards from the former president's podium.
We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
NBC News now learning Crooks was spotted before he got on the roof. Rally-goers on their way in noticed Crooks pacing and behaving strangely near the metal detectors, according to 4 officials. They alerted local police, who began pursuing Crooks on foot. A U.S. official telling NBC News that during the pursuit, the officers told Secret Service they were looking for a suspicious person in the area. It's not clear when Secret Service was notified.
Look, there he is right there.
But Crooks did make it onto the rooftop. 2 senior officials telling NBC News he had a Home Depot receipt for a ladder when they searched his body. Officials have not confirmed if that ladder was found on site. NBC News learning 2 local police officers approached Crooks before he opened fire, but couldn't stop him. The head of the Secret Service telling ABC News local police were actually stationed inside that same building. A Secret Service spokesman says the location of the roof fell outside of their central security perimeter and was the primary responsibility of local law enforcement. The Department of Homeland Security, which oversees the U.S. Secret Service, now conducting a review. The DHS secretary acknowledging mistakes were made.
When I say that something like this cannot happen, we are speaking of a failure.
Authorities have said that the shooter acted alone. Now Politico is reporting that the DHS and FBI have issued a rare joint bulletin warning there could be retaliatory violence by extremists in response to the failed assassination attempt, although they were not specific about potential targets, Hoda.
Okay, so I found an article that is from CBS News, very disturbing information. I just want to share with you because it's kind of scary, and I don't know if it's out there in the news, but I just happened to come across this very, very disturbing information. So let me just read you some of it. A sniper from a local tactical team deployed to assist the U.S. Secret Service at former President Donald Trump's rally on Saturday took a picture of the gunman and saw him looking through a rangefinder minutes before he had tried to assassinate the former president. A local law enforcement officer with direct knowledge of the events told CBS News. The sniper was one of 3 snipers Members of the local tactical teams who were stationed inside the building that the shooter used in the attack, the officer said. The operations plan had them stationed inside, looking out the windows towards the rally, scanning the crowd. The details about the 3 snipers were first reported by the local news outlet beavercountin.com. So the snipers were inside the building that Crooks climbed on top of to try to assassinate our former president. They were inside. They spotted him multiple times. One sniper inside spotted the gunman, Thomas Matthew Crooks, outside and looking up at the roof, observing the building and disappearing, according to the officer who spoke to CBS. The sniper observed Crooks as he returned to the building for a second time, sat down and looked at his phone. At that point, one of the local snipers took a picture of Crooks. Where's this picture? Next, the local sniper observed Crooks looking through a rangefinder, which is an instrument routinely used by marksmen to determine the distance of a target. And he immediately radioed to the command post, according to the local law enforcement officer. The local sniper also attempted to send the photo of the gunman up the chain of command. The command post, according to multiple law enforcement officials, served as a central hub to streamline communications between U.S. Secret Service and the local officers from nearby state and county police forces. It's unclear if the command post received the alert. How could they not receive the alert? And if they didn't take him off the stage or stop at that point, first of all, why didn't anyone come out of the building or question this guy? Second of all, okay, let's say that they didn't respond to the post within 30 seconds or so. They had minutes at least in between. So let's say they didn't respond to the alert that was sent up the chain of command. At that point, wouldn't you send another alert or call up there, do something, come out of the building, stop something from happening? Because obviously there's some suspicious, weird person checking out the roof of the building. That obviously it was suspicious enough that they took a picture of him. But that picture is not doing anything in order to stop the situation from occurring. Let's see what happens next. Officials then lost track of Crooks, who disappeared but soon returned for a third time with a backpack. The local sniper team called for backup, alerting the command post that the gunman had a backpack and was walking toward the back of the building. By the time the other officers responded to the backup request, the gunman had scaled the building, positioning himself above and behind the local snipers inside the building, according to the officer. 2 other municipal police officers who heard the call for backup attempted to climb onto the roof. Butler County Sheriff Michael Sloop told CBS Pittsburgh station KDKA that an armed municipal officer with Butler Township was hoisted by another officer onto the roof of the building where the gunman had taken a position. Crooks focused his rifle towards the officer, who ultimately let go, falling off the roof. That's the first I've heard of that. The shooter began firing into the crowd right then and there. Why? Why was he able to come back to the building multiple times? Let's say they saw him the first time. Okay. You see him a second time. Okay, that's really suspicious. You should have went out at that point, at least. Then you see him again with a backpack and he starts scaling the building. You should be running out there immediately. I understand you want backup, but he's getting into a better position, so where he's up higher than you guys, obviously he's going to be in a better position in order to, oh my God, I don't know. It's just crazy to me. This is crazy. If this is what's actually happened, these are the events. This is crazy, and I can understand why people are losing their minds. Like, this is absolutely absurd. It should have never gotten to this point where he came to the building 3 different times. Not only that, he was by the entrance of the rally acting suspicious already. So people already were like, what's going on with this guy? He's kind of weird. He seems suspicious. Then he comes back to this building 3 times and nobody does anything until he's already up on the building in a position to shoot the former president. What? It's just crazy. Let's see what else it says. A U.S. Secret Service sniper stationed in a building behind the former president fired off 1 round, according to multiple law enforcement officials, killing the gunman. 2 federal law enforcement officers told CBS News the Secret Service team that ultimately killed the shooter was located on a building behind Trump's left shoulder, which many of us saw in the pictures and videos. A federal law enforcement bulletin obtained by CBS News identified the gunman as an apparent lone attacker, warning violent extremists could try to conduct follow-on or retaliatory attacks over the next few months related to the November election. So, just scary. Now it's like, okay, what's going to happen next? This is just totally, it was totally avoidable, and, you know, preventable. And they had many attempts to try and stop this shooter and failed. And ultimately, somebody lost their life. 2 other people were critically injured. Our former president almost got killed. And, you know, luckily it was just a shot in the ear and he's okay. But it's just like, now what's going to happen? This could have started like a total civil war. And it all could have been preventable if people would have just done their jobs. So I think that is ultimately why there is such an outrage right now on this situation, because it's just something that never should have happened. And I'm sure there'll be more information coming out as the days go on, but it's just scary. And that's why people, you know, have to make sure that they're prepared to defend for themselves, because ultimately, are you going to be able to rely on these people, even the Secret Service, who are, you know, and police officers who were supposed to be like protecting people, the community, and protecting these very important people, such as the former president and the president and all of these other people, you know, are they going to be there for you in the future when something else happens? Like, we have to be able to be in a place where we can defend for ourselves, because it's scary. It's just scary. And this is just another situation where it's just proven that, you know, we're not safe and we need to be able to protect ourselves. So anyway, hope you got some enlightening information from this video, and thank you so much for watching.